What's happening, squad? Today we're talking all about FIFA 21 and all the behind the scenes information we know so far about the game. So as always, my name is Brabsy. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. Alright, hope we've been keeping well, squad. I finished my final FIFA 20 competitive game. I've now got some time off to look forward to, so my YouTube hiatus is over. Gonna be playing a lot of games, gonna be chatting to you guys on the regular. But today, we've got FIFA 21 to look forward to. Most of us have seen the trailer by now, so rather than just recapping that, we're actually going to go into all of the details and have a look at really what it is that's going to make this game any different from FIFA 20. Fingers crossed it will. So then, if you're anything like me, I didn't really find that trailer all too helpful. It looked a very similar game. Yes, it did have a few new features, but it didn't really address any of the issues that we saw on FIFA 20. And let's be honest, there was a lot of issues with that game. So the first selling point that they made on the trailer was the concept of Agile dribbling, where they've essentially added in a closer ball control for the players. For me, I actually do think this is going to be a really good addition to the game. FIFA 20 was really clunky when you was on the ball. Unless you had a really small player, like 5'7" or below, anyone else just did not feel agile. It didn't feel like they had any form of ball control at all on the ball. Whereas now at least this does give you a little bit of an opportunity just to hold the ball up when your opponent is jockeying you, which I think will give you a lot more opportunity to change the direction you're playing and really throw your opponent off. So for me, any addition to dribbling is better. We all like to use skill moves. We all like to have creative ways of getting past an opponent. I think it actually might be a good addition. Creative runs. My goodness, this is huge. I can't believe I'm actually starting with two positives after the shambles that FIFA 20 is, but honestly, this could be a really good addition to the game if EA managed to implement it properly. So with creative runs, the idea is no longer will you just be restrained from players making that really poor forward run where they just seem to have no intelligence whatsoever about their positioning. Instead, as we can see with this graphic here, the concept is that once you've passed the ball, you can actually flick the stick to tell the player where you want them to run to. And this for me could be really good for some creative attacking work. Rather than just holding L1, making the player run once you've passed it, you can actually tell them exactly where you want them to run. Now obviously my apprehension is that in online gameplay, it's not the greatest with button detection, it's not the greatest with direction detection. So whether this will implement properly when you are playing on Ultimate Team, for example, I think that is going to be the big challenge for EA. Now we do go on from here to start looking into things like positioning, personality, and you know me, I am honest with things. I actually think this is pretty much the same as what was in FIFA 20 already. However, it does sound like they have adapted on it a little bit. For example, we already knew in situations like this, you had some players that was just stupid as anything, whereas others did do that little dip back. I don't think that's anything majorly new in the game. When we're using Team of the Season players, for example, I've seen them do that on FIFA 20, so, you know, that's not really a new addition in my opinion. One of the things that I have noticed is a new addition is the open up space, which is something that has irritated me so much, not just through FIFA 20, but for quite a few years. When there is an opportunity to create some space for another player, you just want one of your wide players to pull out and just open up that defense. And I'm so glad to see this being implemented now. That is exactly what you want to see. Rather than a forward run, seeing the player actually make a backwards run into that space behind. And that is excellent. That's exactly what you want. So essentially, that defender then either has to follow that player, leaving that one free, or as we see here, go to get the ball and leave the player open. This could really open up our creative attacking opportunities, both with this, with the runs, and with the dribbling. FIFA 20 was very linear with the attacks that you could do, whereas this one already looks like it promises to offer a lot more with the attacking side. Of course, we do then move on into defending, and attacking was never really one of the big bugbears with FIFA 20. It was the defending, or therein the lack of defending in the game. Very much if you was a good defender on FIFA, you didn't get rewarded for things such as tackling. Quite often the player just carried on running with the ball. Likewise, when you played against opponents that just could not defend for the life of them, all they would do is just drop back all their players and let the AI do the work for them, which is something we really do not want to see in FIFA 21. Alright, so defensive awareness is something that it goes into, and it goes on to talk about things like players' attributes, their ability to track runs, mark, etc, etc. To be honest, all this is good wordplay. It's really good to tell us about all things like this, but it really makes no odds until the game's actually being played online with all the server and the button delay and everything else that happens in the game. Momentum, if you want to go down that route. Yeah, for me, I just think this all sounds good, but the one thing I don't think has been addressed is things like the lack of tackling in the game. The ball mechanics is just not rewarding for a defender at all. But then, lo and behold, we do touch upon this very situation. They do show a few graphics showing you the difference in their collision systems that they have revamped. So they claim that no longer will we see those awful goalmouth scrambles where everyone's falling over and doing the worm, thinking they're Scotty too hotty. And instead, it promises to show a more realistic goalmouth scramble where players are actively trying to avoid each other and go for the ball rather than just clambering over each other, which was just A, very unrealistic, and B, very frustrating in previous versions. What I did actually like, and it's a real shame that it doesn't actually show it on my screen here, but if you go out and check it out, it shows you a graphic to show the difference in the tackling animations. So the first one, it shows a player going in for the tackle and the ball just sort of carrying on with the player and bobbling away. And then the second one, it shows a more crisper tackle where the player wins the ball, but the opponent still carries on with it anyway, which kind of like, yeah, that's what we don't want to see, EA. Why are you showing me this, fam? If someone has composed themselves to be a really good defender, then reward them, fam. Reward them. Let them tackle. Don't have the ball bobbling off them and Ben Yedder carrying on, farting balls into the net. I'll jump out my window. No, I wouldn't do that, don't worry. Windows are too expensive to replace. Enhanced CPU, AI, and competitor mode. To be quite honest, this part doesn't really interest me too much. It boasts the capability of having a more intelligent AI that's able to pull off different skill moves and has a better understanding of spaces and tactics with the game. And for me personally, I always think that when you hit the game into something like legendary mode, the game's pretty overpowered anyway, so I don't know how this is really going to differentiate from that at all. But it could benefit some of you. For me, not personally. Alright, the FIFA Lord has spoken. Ha 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 ha. Fundamentals of football. Throughout FIFA 20's cycle, we receive feedback from the core community around the fundamentals of football. I think that's an understatement. I think you receive feedback from everyone during FIFA 20's cycle around the lack of football in the game. But hey, you know, you've held your hands up. Headers. Thank you. Thank you. In FIFA 20, we made the decision to make heading less effective. Yeah, understatement of the year. Jesus Christ, my friend. Seriously, like, that was one of my favourite parts of FIFA 19, that if you was struggling in a game and your opponent was blocking off your tiki-taka game style, you could change it up. You could start whipping in crosses, trying to score headers. And for me, in FIFA 20, when they took heading out of the game. We're not going to call it less effective. They took it out of the game. It wasn't a thing. Heading is part of some players' main games. Maybe they're a target man. Maybe there's someone you want to aim for a cross in the box. For me to just take heading out of the game really made it such a linear experience, and no question was one of the contributing factors to the fact that everyone had players who was like 5'7" or less in the squad. We're introducing manual heading. Thank you! Thank you! Dankeschön, gracias, merci beaucoup, spasiba. So if you have a read through this, what they've basically done is given you an option to fully manualize heading. So you can choose the power and the direction that you want it to go in, which should hopefully create more opportunities to more opportunities to score a goal with a header. And I do genuinely think, or at least hope, that once you have mastered this skill, hopefully heading might become a viable option to score again. I do note that it says, in addition, to ensure fairness in competitive modes, playing with manual heading will be mandatory in the following modes, and it's basically all online game modes, which I think is cool. I'm glad, because it means everyone has the same mechanics, so everyone basically has to get good, which I like. Based on community feedback, we improved the control tackling system introduced in FIFA 20. Now, controlled tackling system. Where was the control, fam? So what they're basically telling us is in FIFA 21, hopefully, we might be able to tackle in the game. They told us that in FIFA 20. I've been positive and complimentary where it's due. I'm also now being apprehensive where it's due. I'm not going to believe that until I see it, quite frankly. One thing I will note, actually, that I quite like is we also reworked shoulder challenges and seal outs to make them more effective and more realistic. I really do actually quite like that, because the amount of times where you just want to body check an opponent or get in the way of them and the ball, and instead you just seem to like brush past them because they've got a 40 strength midget that seems to be stronger than your centre back. I'm looking forward to seeing that be more realistic. I hope that they implement it well. Blocking! We're excited to be refreshing blocking in FIFA 21. Woo-hoo-hoo! Exciting. I like the sounds of that, because the amount of times where a player should have blocked a ball and didn't is frustrating. I also do have some apprehension around the concept of this being an AI controlled thing. If it's all manual, that's going to be great, because it means that it's down to you to position yourself, but if this is another AI tactic of having defenders automatically blocking things, that's another scary concept, because that could make people lazy again and not learn how to defend, and instead rely on just dropping people back and blocking the goal, which was one of the big problems in FIFA 20. Crossing! I like this. I like the opportunity to have crossing in the game. You know, I support Rotherham United. I like football league style football, and a lot of this does involve more basic football of fast wingers crossing the ball into a big beefy sod up front who's going to head it. So I like the concept of being able to mix your play up. So, number of new crossing trajectories in the game. A whipped cross, which is going to be R1 and L1 plus the cross button. So, inspired by Liverpool's Trent Alexander-Arnold, because he invented the whipped cross, didn't he? No, but seriously, that is a good addition, EA. That's one thing that's always been missed out of video games in general that try and simulate football. It's very hard to have that sort of cross mechanic where it just takes a little glancing header to get the ball in. So I am looking forward to giving that one a try, actually. So this is a really big one. Animation fluidity. So we'll just skim this first one. A couple new skillies have been added in, the bridge and the megas, which is cool. Gives someone some magnats. Cancel foul advantage. Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So many times you get tackled and you want that free kick, you want to have a pop at goal. You have to try and lose the ball in order to get that. And sometimes the advantage goes and then you feel like a right mug. So great addition, that one. Instant hard tackles. I like the sound of this. This is not actually a concept that I thought of before. So the ability to perform a hard tackle instantly without having to hold and power up the tackle. But I like the sound of that, because there are some situations where you know a hard tackle will win the ball, but you have to, like, you know, you have to wind it up a little bit. So no, that's a good shout, that. Call players into box on goal kicks. That's pretty much just bringing it in line with the real life rulings on the game. I am glad they've added it in though, because no more having to just chip it to your left back, which was very annoying and very predictable to mark. Skimming through these, because these are just basically showing you the auto-assisted and semi-assisted things, which you can read through at your own leisure. Here's the big one. Skill moves improvements. Thank you. We can actually have some fun on the game again. Yes! So general improvements, reducing the penalty and error for chaining skill moves. I'm glad that is back in the game, because we all enjoy skilling. Why would you try and naff people up for skilling, man? If they can do it, allow it, fam. Allow it, you know what I mean? So there is still some penalties on this. So the more complex skill moves have a max of 3, whereas the more basic ones have a max of 6. So to be honest, that's a decent number. Anyone who's chaining more than 4 complex skills together are just taking the piss, quite frankly. Remapped drag back. That'll take some getting used to. Here's a big one that shouldn't be overlooked. Prioritized skill move execution over sprint request. One of the big things was when you was inputting skill moves and it wasn't registering it. I think a lot of us, me included at one point, just put that down to maybe the delay, like with a lot of other things, but EA have actually explained that this is because previously if you hit the sprint button just after a skill move input, it prioritized that sprint button input over the skill, therefore effectively cancelling your skill move input. So now they've basically flipped it, so if you've told it to do a skill move, it will try and do that over a request to make your player sprint, which I think in most situations will just be a positive. So I think that's a really good step and worthwhile mentioning. Now this is interesting. All access skill moves. All players can now perform right stick skill moves, but their effectiveness depends directly on the move rating, blah, 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 blah. I read that all players will, in effect, be able to do the full complement of skill moves. However, someone with a lower skill rating, 3-star for example, will be more error prone. It probably won't be as sleek, which I think is an interesting concept. If I have interpreted that correctly, which is definitely how it reads, theoretically, if you're a madman, you can try and do a skill move with your centre back now. Although don't do that. So getting towards the end of things, the online gameplay responsiveness things that they have put into the game. The switching improvements for me was really needed. I thought switching was poor in FIFA 20, so I welcome that. I'm really glad they've listened to feedback on that. Quality of life improvements, removal of some celebrations including shush and A-OK foot celebration. Mixed feelings on that. I welcome it. I think there was a lot of arses running around shushing. For me personally, it didn't cause me an issue because I quite liked it when people shushed me, because I could just get them back when I scored the winner and it felt good. But nah, in general, I accept the reason why they've taken it out, and I think it's really good. They've also taken out the removal of the walk back cinematic and reduced the length of celebrations, which just thank you. Honestly, when we're all playing 30 games on a weekend league, no one wants to watch celebrations because we just want to get through the games, man, you know what I mean? On that theme, reduce the waiting time for multiple set pieces. So as we can see all here, all of the dead ball situations has had their time slashed down, which is just fantastic. It really is good for all of the online game modes. Less time wasting, less prattling about. Let's play the game. Let's enjoy it. So yeah, that's a big move. It shouldn't be underlooked. So we'll finally finish off on this one with no ball collision with hands. From now on, if you're playing a shot and a defender's arm gets in the way, it will essentially just ghost through it. That's essentially what they mean by permeable. So that's a really good addition as well. No more stupid animations where it's bouncing off someone's little finger and going wide. You can carry on and read into this webpage. Go onto EA.com, onto the FIFA 21 section and click on pitch notes, where you will find the full in-depth information to read at your leisure. But those are my opinions on some of the main features being released for FIFA 21 so far. Let me know in the comments whether you are planning to get FIFA 21. Maybe you're giving it a miss because of how bad FIFA 20 is, or maybe you're just waiting for the next gen consoles to come out. As always, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, give us a comment down below, and I'll see you very soon with some more videos, most likely not FIFA related, in the next few weeks while I have my break, have my holidays from FIFA. We're going to have some fun on this channel. Till next time, ciao for now.